Hi, welcome to the Jon Gaunt podcast. Tonight, live, 7/7, the London bombings. It's the 20th anniversary tomorrow, Monday, the 7th. It doesn't feel kind of right, does it? It doesn't feel like 20 years ago. And the big question I'm asking you tonight is, do you feel safer now than before that dreadful day 20 years ago? So do you feel safer now, or do you still think we're living under the threat of terrorism? I'd like your opinion. Please leave a comment at the bottom of here. So welcome to the live broadcast. As you know, I'm Jon Gaunt, and I can't believe this, 20 years ago, I was live on BBC London when this devastating attack happened, the 7/7 London bombings, as they became known. I was also, and I'm not bragging, I'm just stating a fact, I was the first broadcaster in the world to speak to survivors live on air. Remember, this was before mobile phones had video. It was really before social media. As the people came out of the tunnels, out of the subway, whatever you want to call it, the tube, they spoke to me. They called me on their mobiles. As I say, nowadays it would have been on Facebook, it would have been on YouTube, more or less as soon as the bombs went off. That day, and as I say, it's 20 years since that horrific day, tomorrow. I just want to explore what happened. Did it change London forever, or did Londoners just get on with life? And I'm asking a very, very important question. Are we actually safer now in 2025 than we were then? Or are we less safe? I would say terrorism's changed. Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, she said the biggest threat is still Islamist terror. That's a change, isn't it? But she said it's also the far right. They never miss a bloody opportunity, do they? So we'll talk about that as well. So I want to discuss terrorism, the changing nature of it. I want to talk about the way we responded, Londoners and people who worked in London, to it. I want to tell you about what was happening behind the scenes at BBC London whilst that broadcast was going out. Something I'm still immensely proud of, this broadcast, not because of me, because the irony, the worst thing in news is bad news, and especially bad news for lots of people, makes the best programs, if you follow what I said. And that day I had an excellent team working with me. And I had people who were on their way to work. I think the first person we spoke to was one of the people who worked at BBC London, who was in the carriage which blew up, or one of the carriages. So we're going to go through all of this. And then we're going to talk about national security. And is there a lasting impact of 7/7 on all of us? I'd like your views. You know what to do. Just write a comment up and we'll kick off the discussion. So, do you feel safer? I mean, I remember that day. It was kind of bizarre because it was just another ordinary day. And then I remember, and in fact, if you can still get the tape of the day, of the program, if you're so inclined, it starts with a travel report. That's the first sense we got anything that was going on. And she said there'd been a problem on one of the tube lines. And at first, people were saying it's an outage, it's an electrical problem, the tubes will run again, because the tubes just stopped running. And we took the decision that we were not going to speculate. Obviously, we all feared the worst, and because we weren't stupid, we knew there was a threat of terrorism, but we didn't speculate. And I'm proud that we didn't speculate, because I think that would have made it a totally different program, and it would have been wrong. 52 people died on that day. We didn't know that at the time. But as the show progressed, suddenly we had to sell. I think it was when the bus blew up as well. Do you remember in Tavistock Square? Then we did call it a terror incident. They kept me on air for 6 hours. They also simulcast the show right across the country, even though it was only for BBC local radio in London normally. So it went out they put it on Radio 5, they put it on everything because we were there. And this is the beauty of local radio. The one thing I will say about BBC local radio, which is why I never slag it off, if you've noticed, I'll slag off everything else in the BBC. But local radio, you have a unique relationship, if you're any good, with your audience. So whether they've been phoning in because of competitions or just have a laugh, have a joke, ask for a request, ask for you to, not a musical request, ask for you to plug an event they're doing, you are their mate on their radio. So when something dreadful happens, it happened the same when I won all my Sonys with Vauxhall being closed down. Who are they going to phone? They're going to phone Gaunty, the local BBC radio station. And that's what happened that morning. And then we obviously sent our reporters down. Somebody said to me today, how did you cope with doing that show? Well, the answer is you just do it. I'd done lots of things like this before. I'd done the Vauxhall thing. Also, I think the first few months when I got to BBC London, 9/11 happened. And although obviously we weren't in New York, we kind of followed it. And so because of the New York-London connections, and then I went to New York a few months later because of the closeness of the two cities. So in a sense, we'd had a dress rehearsal. But of course, when you're hearing, and what I had to do that day compared to the emergency services is nothing, is it? And also what the victims and the survivors went through. Over 700 people injured. I mean, when you actually think through what happened that day, those 4 people, and that was again irony, they got the train from Luton where I'd worked for so many, many years. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. I've just got a message here saying they're having a problem. Oh, me, so sorry. I hope you can still see me. They're having a problem pushing this through to Facebook as well. So hold on a minute. I'll come back to you. There we are. I'm back. Can you see me still? I hope you can. All right. So if you're on Facebook, you won't know, will you? So I'm still on YouTube, still going out on Twitter. Hopefully it's still going to go out on Facebook, or it will eventually. Anyway, what was I saying to you? So yeah, I'd worked in Luton for so long. The bombers came down from the north, got the train Luton, came into London. Now, I can't go into the psychological, how you could possibly think detonating a bomb on a tube can ever be justified. I can't even begin to get my head there. And maybe that's why we thought it would never happen. Now, remember the day, and why the day was significant was it was the day after we'd won the Olympics. Ken Livingstone and all the big knobs of London and a lot of our reporters were in Singapore for the announcement. So we'd celebrated the day before, and I'd done an outside broadcast at Stratford, where the stadium was going to be built. And then this happened. And I'll tell you one thing that really, really sticks in my mind. Ken Livingstone, who I never really got on with, but he was the mayor of London at the time, and he went up in my estimation because we got him on the line, because, of course, we're getting everybody to comment on it. And he basically said, it won't defeat us. We're London. We're Londoners. We will not be cowed by this. And I think he played a significant role in making sure there was no reprisal attacks on other Muslims, if you follow what I'm saying. And I think we should all be proud of the fact, yes, there were some isolated incidents. Yes, there were some so-called revenge attacks. Ridiculous, because the people who had done it, yes, they purported to be Muslims, but they were all dead, right? They killed themselves. Even the one who was having second thoughts on the bus, they all died. But what was interesting was that the so-called white majority did not go on the rampage. And now when I'm 20 years on from it, there was a fear then that was going to happen. And there's still that fear. Yvette Cooper's comments today about the anniversary saying there's still a threat from the far right. Well, I'm sure there is, but it can hardly go in the same sentence as Islamist terror, can it? Because we're still living under the threat of that. You don't go to Christmas markets because of it. Am I right or am I wrong? Every time a car plows into a pedestrian or a crowd of people, again, or when an incident happens, for example, Southport, people naturally assumed they were wrong, but they assumed it was an Islamist terrorist. Now, as it turns out, it wasn't. And if Keir Starmer had told people earlier, I don't believe the riots would have been on the scale they were. And as I keep saying, it's not just me saying that. His own terrorism czar says it. If you leave a vacuum of information, people will fill it. But I don't think 7/7 led to the spread of so-called far-right extremism. I know the MP got killed by a far-right extremist. I know there are far-right extremists, but they're nowhere near in the same category, are they, as the threat from Islamist terrorists? And has it brought us together over this period? Because, I fast forward and I think about the Manchester arena bomber. And it wasn't just him, it was his brothers as well, wasn't it? And now we have a problem with these extremists in our prisons. Some people saying they're running the prisons, or people are converting so they get an easier life. Are we living under the threat of terrorism still to this day? Come on, let's have your comments and we'll get the conversation going. But let's go back 20 years first. Where were you on that day? I've had loads of people. I mentioned a couple of hours ago I was going to do this show today. I've had quite a few people on X, Twitter, and on Facebook saying, oh, I was listening to you, Gaunty, which is very nice of you to say. And, I was in a cab or I was driving my cab. Denise Deacon said she was on the way to work and she heard this happen. People didn't know whether to turn around and go home again. I mean, I remember trying to phone Lisa. None of the mobiles would work, would they, after the incident? Because they were jammed, I think. So many people trying to phone their loved ones and say, I'm okay. I mean, again, now we'd do it on Facebook or we'd do it on X, wouldn't we? You've got to remember it was before those times. And BBC London, I've got to say, the whole team worked so well. And they became the information hub for most Londoners. No one wanted to listen to music radio that day. They tuned into us. And I'm proud of the broadcast we did. And I'm proud that we didn't speculate. And I'm proud that we then didn't get into hate or whatever else. Lots of people phoned in with information saying this is happening, that's happening, etc., etc. It really felt as if London was under attack. Well, 2 weeks later, of course, there was another attack, but let's keep that out of the equation for the moment. And then, of course, there was the dreadful killing of the Brazilian bloke who was mistaken identity by the Met. All of that feeds into it. But on that first day, on 7/7, where were you? And what did you think was happening? And how do you think London and Londoners, and indeed, it's not just about London, how did the rest of our great country react to it? I think we reacted magnificently. I think we reacted magnificently. Just the way Brits always do. It wasn't necessarily stay calm and carry on, but it certainly was, we've just won the Olympics, like Ken Livingstone said, and we're not going to be cowed into submission. And I don't think we have been. I think our governments have, successive governments, because don't forget it was Blair in power at the time. They have always been scared of a so-called, they call it a far-right reaction. What they mean is white. The white mass population kicking off. I find that really offensive because we haven't done it. There have been some hotheads, as I said earlier, but on the whole, that hasn't happened. But I think our governments then have tiptoed. Oh, don't forget, of course, Muslims died on that day as well. Sikhs, Hindus, all kinds of people were on the tube when it blew up, and indeed that bus. It affected everybody. But what I think there's been a tendency by government, local and national, to tread on eggshells around normal, law-abiding Muslims. I think that's why we've got to the stage now where there's debates about can you wear the burqa or not. But like if you're in the camp where you say, no, you can't, it's not got any place in society, you're referred to as a far-right extremist. I remember when you could have those discussions. See, I'm old enough. I was writing for The Sun after this 7/7. I left BBC London a few weeks later. It was already planned. And I eventually ended up on The Sun and on Talk Sport. And I remember when you could talk about these things, like the banning of the burqa. And then suddenly, as time has gone on, you've not been allowed to. And it's as if we, the white, no, it's not just white, is it? But the non-Muslim population has had to fit in. And then there's been quite a few atrocities. I won't go through them all now, but, you know, London Bridge, for example, Manchester Arena, those bombings. And we're meant to just not look back in anger, sing Kumbaya, and have a picture of a bee on our lapel. It's kind of wrong. And there has not been enough condemnation, it's got to be said, from within that particular community. I don't think all Muslims are terrorists. I don't. But I do think it's odd the way it's been treated by our elders and betters. Do you? Do you want to talk about that, or is that too controversial? Because should we still be living in fear? I know you can then say, well, it was Blair, then it was foreign policy, it was Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, etc., etc. And by doing those things, we alienated more people. Yeah, but did we alienate them to the point at which they wanted to go on tubes and blow up innocent people? Like at the moment, the amount of people waving the Palestinian flags, and not just the Palestinian flag, the flag of Hamas. Yesterday, I don't know if you follow me on Twitter or X, whatever it's called at the moment, I had 700,000 responses. It's Carnival. I'm down in Rosie's Village, and it was Carnival yesterday. And on Friday, I went to the allotment. You know, I've been helping her with her allotment while she's away. I came back and I was parched. So I stopped at the village pub in the town square, in the city, the village square. Sat down and ordered a pint of lager because I was really thirsty. I'm a beer drinker, right? I'm a Bass drinker normally. But in the heat, I wanted a lager. So I ordered a lager, and what's it called? The Spanish one that isn't Spanish, Maggi or whatever it's called. So I had a pint of that, and I took a photo saying typical, or something along the lines of English Friday afternoon. And that was it. It was fun. It was almost poetic. I sat outside this pub, sun blazing down at me about 4:00 in the afternoon. The church bells were ringing. I think they were rehearsing for the carnival today, you know, for this big celebration when for yesterday when the Morrismen came. And it was just so English. So I wrote a tweet saying, it's so English. You should have seen, I had 7,000. Still, if you go on now, you'll still see it. The majority of them saying, good on you, Gaunty. Then some people started taking the mickey saying, why are you drinking that Spanish stuff? Then other people said, that's not Spanish. It's brewed in Burton. There's a big side debate about that. And then other people saying you should drink real ale. And then the lefties came on. You call yourself a patriot. You're drinking Spanish lager. You've got a pair of Ray-Bans made in Italy. Well, from Italy, via America, probably made in China. You've probably put this tweet up on your Vietnamese iPhone. And it just went on and on and on. But underlying it, they hate our country. That's what they were saying. Then I was called, excuse my language, a flag shagger, whatever that means. And then a little Englander, somebody who loves England too much. It's a derogatory term. How can you love your own country too much? They were trying to paint me as a nationalist, as a racist. But I gave as good as I got with these lefties. And I said, if Palestine's so good, why don't you go? I hear it's lovely this time of year. Honestly, it's getting on my nerves that doing something normal, a cold beer on a hot afternoon in a village square, is somehow racist. That's what they were saying. You're trying to show how British, or how not British, English you are. And a load of Irish people, what the hell it's got to do with them, I don't know, slagging me as well. And then others who lived in Europe, now lived in France and places, had left the country. Now, you see, I think this is where it's gone. I don't think there have been reprisals, like I've been saying. But what's happened is this tribalism, right? And rewriting of history. So somehow their perverted view of the world, I don't mean sexually, I mean, but it's a perverted vision of the world, that somehow our glorious history is terrible. We were colonists, we did this, we took over this, we did the slave trade. Always forgetting we stopped the slave trade. Always forgetting that we brought democracy to the world. Of course, there's elements of our empire that were wrong, but it was a different time. It was a different place. But go to Pakistan and compare Pakistan to India. Go on, just go and have a look. Go to India and meet people, Indian people, who actually talk so well, are so respectful of the English stroke British. I just find it all bizarre. And I think that's where it's gone. I think that's where it's gone. That bombing on 7/7 and the subsequent attacks has made us either hate our history, our culture. Oh, and I talked about Morris men. Some Burke said, you do know Morris men comes from the Moors. Oh, no. Yeah. And I thought he's going to go in a moment about one of them blacking up or whatever. Yeah. And all that nonsense. That's all been. I just like watching it. Then I went to the carnival yesterday on my own. Johnny No Mates got talking to a few people. They had all these floats. And it was the whole village. The whole community. And there were black people there, and there were Asian people there, and there were Oriental people there. But it was a beautiful English cultural tradition. The carnival. Then I went off to the field where they have, the dogs training and all that, all the little events, right? Kids Bouncy Castle and a fun fair. I saw a bloke who Rosie knows, runs the local Indian. So I bought a samosa off him. And then I carried on walking around. And last year we went and we had jerk chicken. There's a group of people, they come from Wolverhampton, I think. Proper Jamaicans. And they make goat curry and Jamaican jerk chicken, which I adore. So I had a tray full of that. So I'm sitting there on my own, thinking about what happened yesterday, seeing all this abuse still coming on the phone about me being a flag shagger and a little Englander. I'm thinking, I'm none of those things. I don't go out of my way to eat Jamaican jerk chicken to prove I'm multicultural. But if it's there, and there was all the other stuff, hot dogs and all that, I'd much rather have that. Like they were saying to me, oh, you'll drive your foreign car home. I haven't got a bloody car. And you'll probably have a curry later. And then I made the very good point that all the curry we eat in this country isn't really Asian anyway. It was all made for the English taste. Even the bloody Birmingham Balti. I'm not claiming, therefore, it's ours. It's not our culture. But it's not when you have cultural appropriation. You're not allowed to wear those hats if you go, with the dreadlocks on. Because it's cultural. It's just nonsense. Can't we just get on like we used to? And so all of these things are in my mind. And then it's this anniversary. And so what I think 7/7 did, I think it made our country more fractured. And I don't think we've recovered. And I blame the politicians as well, because they never say, and the police are looking for a Muslim suspect, a black person. But if it's a white person, straight away. They've changed slightly on this. They're beginning to learn their lesson. It doesn't do anybody any good. And ordinary people, not like people like Keir Starmer, but ordinary people who live in multicultural Britain, were comfortable with it. But there are elements of the media and the political class who don't want it. Do you remember all that rubbish about the penalty takers? Oh, and they were black and they were booed. Yes, some yobbos did that. And some of those yobbos would have been white. Some probably would have been black as well. But the majority would have been white. But it doesn't mean the majority of England fans are like that. We live in a multicultural, multi-race world. But what's wrong is we've forgotten that first and foremost, we're bloody England. And it's English. Why has the carnival tradition died out all over Britain? Tell me why. Why? Why don't we value things that we have and we've had in our tradition and in our culture? It's because the politicians, and I do believe this, Starmer, Blair, they hate our country. And they certainly hate the white working class. Remember the woman who moaned about the English flag being outside of somebody's flat in her constituency? And that snobby woman who Starmer made a dame. It's a joke. It's a joke. I don't. And then that was the same thing yesterday. Oh, you think your country is better than anybody else's country? I don't actually. I do think it's a great country. And I have travelled extensively. But it is a great country. Otherwise, every Tom, Dick and Abdul wouldn't want to get here, would they? So sorry, I'm going off this. Well, I'm not actually. It's all part of the same subject, isn't it? And also, Blair, when people came to our country, he didn't say you've got to fit in. He didn't say fit in or ship out. In fact, he said quite the opposite. Do whatever the hell you like. What, you want to dump mattresses in your front garden? On you go. You want to have two dads? On you go. Want to marry your cousin? On you go. Want to do female genital mutilation? We'll even fund it. It's wrong. It's wrong. And you couldn't go to any of the countries where those people have come from and say, I'm going to do what I want to do. You couldn't. They wouldn't allow it. I don't think everyone's got to be totally assimilated. I think people can keep their own language, their own dialects, their own religion. But what we don't want or we can't have is the situation we've got. And then Starmer talks about an island of strangers. It's people like him, Blair, who have created that, isn't it? This is such a great country. Our passport is so brilliant. We shouldn't just give it away. I just find it incredible that we have allowed these idiots in power, and it's not just Labour, the Tories as well, to dictate to us. How come halal meat is now de rigueur? All the lamb you buy in this country is halal. I don't want animals slaughtered like that. Just like I don't want kosher. I'm sorry if that upsets Jewish people, but no. It's not the way we do things. I find it completely bizarre. 52 people died that day. And how many people died in the Manchester Arena bombing? And there hasn't been an upsurge in the far right. There's been an upsurge in the right wing. And no wonder Farage is going to become the next Prime Minister. He's the only person speaking the language of the population. I don't mean English, but but almost that as well. Do you understand what I'm saying? Whereas the other politicians, they live in this vacuum. That's why Starmer turns around and says, oh, that speech about with the echoes of Enoch Powell, who I've got no time for, by the way, but as echoes of that, he said, I wouldn't have read that if I'd had my mind on the subject. He's the Prime Minister. He's admitting he's reading out speeches he hasn't read and then going back on them. And then we've got a Chancellor who cries in the Commons, makes up a cock and bull story saying it's personal. When people say, why is it personal? Oh, you can't ask. And if you've noticed, no cabinet minister who's defending her has said, oh, yes, she told me what it is. It's, oh, no, I can't tell you, but it's awful. Which is what they would do if it was real. It's not real. They're lying. They're conning you. Ever got the feeling you've been cheated? They're leaving you behind. They don't like you. Anyway, so going back to 7/7, this is where the rot set in. Am I being too bonkers about this? Too extreme about it? Please tell me. Let me go to some of your comments now, and then we'll get involved. Keep pressing. I've spoken for half an hour. I do apologise. Keep pressing the like button. We've only got 11 today. We normally get more than that. If you want to restream it as well. I know we had a problem when we started with Facebook, but it looks like it's back on now. So if you're watching on Facebook, thank you. If you're listening on a podcast, don't forget you can always come to my TV channel, and that's booming this weekend. Jon Gaunt TV on YouTube. It's free to subscribe. Once you've done that, then you'll be able to see all my previous videos and podcasts, and you'll get notified when I'm doing another one. If you'd like to support me financially, that's simple as well. Just go to www.buymeacoffee.com/Jon Gaunt, and you can donate some money. Quite a few people donated yesterday that way. It's a $5 a time, but most people give 15. But thank you for that. Also, if you just click on the $sign on the YouTube channel now at the bottom here, you can also donate anything you want. £1, a couple of quid, whatever you fancy. It would be good if you could, because I think what I'm doing is pretty important. Right, let's have a look at what we got then. Considering the number on the UK terror watch list, 50,000, as a Londoner, no, I don't believe or feel safer today in 2025. Well said, Chris. 10. It's just different, isn't it, my friend? It's just different. It's a different form of terror now. Well, now it's pure terrorism, because you never know. Because you might avoid the tube or something, but you never know if you go to an event whether you're going to die. How can we live like this? He also says, I also remember the subsequent bus bombing that followed. Well, there was the one on the day, and then, of course, there was another attack on the tubes, wasn't it? Chopper MK50 says, far less safe now. It's returned to what it was like during the Troubles. Yeah, apart from the IRA, they never tried to kill themselves, did they? That's what I've always found frightening about Islamist, fascist terrorism. They want to kill themselves. That's part of the deal. Irish were too clever for that. They didn't want to do it. And they mainly, and not always, attacked military targets. I'm not condoning it. Or they emptied the properties before they set the bombs off, apart from Birmingham, of course. But was that the police? Who knows? Anyway, it's what it's like during the Troubles. Fear, danger, and anger all around you. And you can feel it's there. In 2005, it felt like a remote attack. 9/11. Madrid, Bali, then us. Yeah, that is how it went. You're right. That's a good point, Chopper. A very good point. Thank you for making it. Afternoon, John. I've only visited London once. That was over 20 years ago. I've never been again. I've thought about it, but I don't feel safe going there. Completely different to Edinburgh, where I live. Cheers. Thank you very much indeed for that comment. Chris 10, Mayor Sadiq Khan has made sure London is a ghetto now. Well, I think he's contributed. I don't think you can blame him totally. No, this country has had it, says John Richards. Thank you very much indeed for your comment. Gaunty, do you think there is, shall we say, a Jerry Anderson who did Thunderbirds pulling our supposed government strings? Well, you mean they're like puppets? Yeah, I can see that. I don't buy into it completely. What I think it is, it's more likely there's a factory that turns out these MPs who all have the same views, because they've all got the same opinion. They've certainly got the same opinion of us, the general population. I'm sick of the government trying to gaslight us about the far right. Who are those bombing using vehicles to unalive, butchering kids, etc., says Chris. Peter Adams out in Hungary says, cowards, the lot of them. Blowing up innocent, law-abiding people. I remember on TV, someone said 95% of Muslims are not terrorists, but 95% of the terrorists are Muslim. How true? Yeah, it is true. That is a true statistic. But we got to remember it, Peter. Because I don't think the guy who runs my local Balti house is a terrorist. And I don't think the guy who picks me up from the station now and again is a terrorist. I think he's a decent bloke trying to bring up the decent blokes trying to bring up their kids just like me. So we have got to keep cap on it. But largely, Peter, we have done. We have done. But the government, our government, hates us. A bit like those people talking about me being a flag shagger and, oh, you're only bragging about having a beer and you're an idiot because it's not even British beer, which of course it is. It's brewed in Burton or whatever. But I just thought it was ridiculous. And then they went off and on. They made up all this imagery of me. Driving a foreign car, and as you know, I always drive Jaguars without any money. And then they go on about all this other stuff. And then I got started being called a misogynist. It's crazy. Not safer. We're under attack ever since, says Sean Folan. No, there's many more potential terrorists in the UK due to the failure of successive governments to control illegal immigration. Now, that's a good point you're making, Phil. Let's talk about that. We've still got them coming in their thousands at Dover, 400 or 500 a day on a good summer's day. The government don't know who they are. I said this to you last week. If you said to the government, do you know everybody in that boat is safe? There's not a rapist, has not got a criminal record. And of course, they won't all have one, will they? I'm not saying they're all bloody rapists or terrorists, but let's look at the Iranian plot. They reckon they came in via Dover. We have got to control it. I told you the way to do it. It's put them all in tents immediately, get rid of the squeezy soap, get them out of hotels, and send videos so they see it's a much tougher regime. I wouldn't go as far as Trump, but I wouldn't be far off it. It's not on. And the pace of change. It was like when Tony Blair said, oh, only about 100,000 people are coming, when he opened up to all the other East European countries. Other places like Italy and stuff put a restriction on how many they were going to let in. We just went, oh, it's a free-for-all. And as Mandelson famously said, we wanted to rub English people's nose in diversity. They thought we were all racist. 1 million came. And then that idiot Boris Johnson did the same thing. So it's the pace of change. That was like another thing. When they were having to go at me about this, then somebody said, oh, make the most of it. I bet there's a mosque or something about a mosque. And I said, there's no mosques here. I didn't even think of the reply I gave. It's just a fact. There isn't a mosque. I wasn't making any kind of judgment or qualitative judgment, whatever. Go down the road to Oxford, there's loads of mosques. Just like in Coventry, I don't give a shit about it. In fact, when I was working in Luton, the only thing I got annoyed about with the mosque was on a Friday, they didn't think the parking regulations had to be observed. But the rest of it, I don't care. But I think Phil Greaves is right. We've just let everybody in. And it has felt like a flood. Now, see, now people will start saying I'm racist. But it's not racist. It's an observation. If you'd like to support me, you might need to. Free the Gaunty one. Dead simple. Just press that little $ and chuck in a few quid into the pot if you can. Or buy me a coffee at www.buymeacoffee.com. I've talked for too long, nearly at the end of my show. John, thank you for your awesome work, says Craig Mawson. Well, thank you, Craig, for saying so. I asked AI about murders in London in the early 70s, and it told me it was like today, about 150, maybe yet less. Am I going mad? I actually do think the murder rate in London has gone down. I don't know whether they're defining it differently, but I heard that as well. But it's the stabbings, isn't it? You can see it all the time. Huh? No one's going to convince me London is safer now. I saw the head of the Met Police this morning on that Laura Kunsberg show. He really inspires confidence, doesn't he? We'll talk TV, let you have a show, John. No, I shouldn't think so. No. It's the simple answer to that, I think. And that's because the guy who runs it, he used to run a thing called Wireless, which ran talk radio. He's the guy who sacked me when I called that bloke a Nazi, and he's never got over it. So being a child, rather than getting his audience up and giving me a gig, he won't give me a gig, even though Rupert Murdoch and Rebecca, who's in charge of the whole conglomerate, think I'm great. Maybe I should have another go at them. I don't know. Proud Brit living in Hungary with the Union flag flying high from a 15-foot flagpole outside. You are a flag shagger, Peter Adams. 23rd April, the English flag is flown. 20th of August, the Hungarian flag is flown for one day, which is St. Stephen's Day. Good on you, Peter. Good on you. John, in Leeds, a guy yesterday got arrested for asking the Free Palestine March, why don't they go live there? Yeah, I saw that. And people are going mad about that 83-year-old granny who's a vicar. She got arrested because she said, I support Palestine, whatever they're called. Well, you can't do that anymore. It's a prescribed organisation. People saying, well, that's wrong. She's 83. Well, it's bloody wrong that Lucy Connolly is in prison for 31 months as well. But that's life. That's law. Just because you're 83, you don't get off it. Honestly, the left, they think it's what Bill Bratton told me. You know, the man who did Zero Tolerance in New York? He said to me, do you know the people who complain the most about zero tolerance? I said, no, who was it? Is it the hobos? Was it the scruffs on the street, the people who were conning people? No, the middle classes. He said, when we started to tell them you can't rollerblade, you know, skate down the sidewalk, they got stroppy. Or you can't have your dog off the leash when you're going to some posh cafe on Broadway. He said they didn't like it. They wanted tough laws, but not for them. That's all I'm saying. Angie Barnes says definitely no. I shouldn't think that means she's definitely doesn't feel safer. John, have you got your comments turned on? Yes, I have. I just didn't read them out for ages because I was in a bit of giving you a diatribe. Have you paid? John, you are at your best tonight, says Peter Adams. Thank you, Peter. I wouldn't think so because no one's donating, but thank you very much indeed for your support. The online petition to raise the issue of halal and kosher slaughter, non-stun, got about 100,000 signatures. I signed. Yeah, did you see that Nigel Farage just said he's not in favour of banning it? Doesn't want to upset anyone. Huh? I find him a bit odd at the moment. I still think he's the best option out of everyone, though, to be honest with you. But where should we go next? Let's go to this one. Why don't the boat people have identification? Well, because they throw their passports in the sea, in the channel as they're coming over. What happened to ISIS, etc.? All young men coming in. Do we have sleeper cells here? And yes, I am afraid. Of course there are sleeper cells here. Of course there are. That doesn't mean everybody who comes in is a terrorist, but of course they're here. Of course they are. And I think the government know that. But still they come. Still they don't secure the border. It's just so easy to secure the border. Why don't they bloody do it? And they say, oh, that was funny. The French, they slashed one of the dinghies. Did you see that? But it was just one where just so happened to be a BBC TV crew filming it. And it just so happens to be, they did it this weekend, just because Macron's coming on a state visit next week. It's all smoke and mirrors. Ever got the feeling you've been conned? While we're all, let's be honest, sick of Staliner, I think he means Starmer, where would we be if the Ginger Growler ousts him? Well, she won't oust him, but I don't think you need to get worked up about who comes next. You just need to get rid of him. He's got to go. He's lied again. Let me just tell you another little prediction. If I was him, I'd have said to her, to the Chancellor, listen, what's the personal problem? I'm the Prime Minister. I'm your boss. Tell me in confidence. And if he hasn't asked that question, he's no leader. And if he has asked the question and he knows it's bullshit, right? Because it is. Even the main newspapers are saying this. I was the first person to say this. I said it on the day. Now everybody's copying me. Now they've got a little bit braver. But Dan Hodges has done a good job on this on the Mail on Sunday. It's obviously made up. Otherwise, she'd say it's a bereavement, wouldn't she? She hasn't said it's a bereavement or my son's in trouble, my daughter's. You would just give a little bit more information. And you wouldn't come back the next day with all the bags under your eyes, the iron creased them out. It's rubbish. She was told she was going to get the bullet and tough shit about the fact we've had to go back on your budget and you are going to have to raise taxes. Oh, and you know what? You're going to have to take the rap for it. And she said, oh, that's not fair. I'm sure that's what's happened. But now they're lying. Bridget Phillipson, Cruella de Vil, as I call her, without the charm or the wit. She was on the telly this morning. Basically said it was personal. And they think that the moment they use the word personal, we'll all back off. Well, I don't think they will. I think the pride of the gutter press of Fleet Street, they'll be digging like crazy. Marion Groom says, I do not feel safe in this country. Under this government, I am worried. Thank you for your contribution. She's a Facebook person. Seaside of Mark, don't forget they attacked you for drinking a pint of Madri too, John. Yeah, they did, yeah. They said, that's not, you think you're a patriot and you're drinking Madri, it's Spanish. As if I wouldn't know. Yes, it means Madrid. Yes, but I know it's not brewed in Madrid, just like I know Michelob isn't brewed the ones we have in this country, or Budweiser brewed any longer in America. Just like Moretti or Peroni. I think they're brewed in Edinburgh. It doesn't matter. I like the taste. I'm not a lager drinker, but when it's really hot, it hits the spot. I just sat there drinking my lager, made a funny tweet. Well, I thought it was funny. I thought people would say, yeah, why not? Relax. Day off. Golden Eagle Day. Yeah. Poets Day. You know what that means, don't you? Something off. Right. But no, I had all this abuse. I'm a little. Oh, and that's the thing. You're not a patriot if you wear Ray-Bans, one of them said. I said, is that because you're jealous because you can't afford them? I mean, I've got them because my daughter worked for the firm who worked for them. And so I got a pair and I had my own lenses put in. But I've always loved Ray-Bans ever since the Blues Brothers. Haven't you? And I won't be dictated to by some twat on Twitter about where I've got to get my sunglasses from. Somebody else said, wearing those sunglasses, your phone's from China, that's it, and your T-shirt's probably from Vietnam. As if you're a true patriot, you shouldn't do that. What a load of nonsense. This was a lefty saying it, not a patriot. Sadiq Khan, oh no, you've had too many, mate. Trump is using the madman theory to try and change the world, and it's working. I think you're right, Steve, on YouTube. Now there is a supposed purge on these immigrant Yeah. Oh, thanks for bringing this up, Andrew. You're on the ball. Now there is a supposed purge on the immigrant delivery drivers, illegal drivers. You mean not? Don't call them immigrants because a lot of immigrants come here properly and they're working well and they're paying their tax. Just Eat, etc. He says, why don't we tell companies let them show photo ID when they deliver? You're dead right, Andrew, and it's scaring the arse off me. It's like with Uber. One daughter's coming back from holiday overnight tonight, but I've already told the other one, when you get in an Uber now, you be really careful. Make sure that the little picture on his pass, on his dashboard, or on your phone when you get it is the same guy. Because I've had this. Waiting for an Uber one day, it was during the day, so it didn't really matter. And he phoned me up. He said, where are you? I said, I'm outside the bakery and by this dada, next to this pub. He said, no, you're not. I said, yes, I am. I said, where are you? He said, I'm there. I said, no, you're not. I said, what car are you in? So he says, it was something like a white Volvo. I said, no, on the app it says you've got a blooming, what do you call them? Those Japanese Toyota things, a Pierce. He was using a different car. And when I got in the car, it was a different guy. So I got straight back out again. Complained to Uber, and they came up with some cock and bull story. Oh, sometimes they change cars. What's the point of having those signs that say be booked, be insured? How about being booked, get raped? Not that I was going to get raped, but do you understand? So it worries the arse off me. A woman orders a pizza, right, from one of these companies. You don't know who's going to be delivering it. But Yvette Cooper's now making a big fuss. Oh, we're going to clamp down on it. Again, rearrange his words. Too little late. Too little late. You clown. You absolute clown. Andrew Duncan's also a superstar because he's just donated £5 with a super sticker on YouTube. Thank you very much, Andrew. You are a superstar. Hi, John. His loss, John. All the best. Keep it up, mate. I don't know what you're talking about, Sean, but thank you very much indeed. Where should we go next? The Feral Gamer 91. I was on my way from Weymouth to London in NHS transport. We got stuck going down one of those high overpass roads towards a roundabout. Under the bridge, it was full of migrant tents. Yeah, they are. I'll tell you where else you'll see them in. You'll see them in London. You'll see them actually on Park Lane. That's because these are the ones. Well, I don't know where these ones have come from. A lot of these are Roma, aren't they? So they say. I don't know. John, my girlfriend's got a new name for the Houses of Commons. My girlfriend calls it the House of Cowards. You are absolutely right. The Feral Gamer says one of those migrants were walking along the middle of traffic, knocking on the windows, asking for money. Yeah, that's something I never thought we'd ever see in this country. You get that in America, especially in the South. Parts of Florida, you get it. But I went to New Orleans, Birmingham, Alabama, places like that. they walk along the road. It started off with them saying veteran on a sign, yeah, homeless. You don't mind chucking them a few bob, but now it's become a sense. Now it's become just knocking on the window, just asking for the money. The best one I had like that was there's a big issue seller, and Lisa always buys one off him, and I do as well. Right? And also some days I say, look, I've already got one, but I always feel mean doing that. But I bought one off him, always made one day, and I was with Lisa, and so he gave him £3 or whatever it is, and then he said, "Do you want the magazine?" I said, "What?" He says, "Do you want it? Are you actually going to read it, or do you find it a bit boring?" And I guiltily said, "Well, actually, I just put it in the living room and don't look at it again." He said, "Well, would you mind if I kept it? But I keep the donation." I said, "I'll double the bloody donation for your cheek." Good on him. At least he was trying. Do you understand what I'm saying? John Morse, Craig Mawson says, "Me and my girlfriend and our kids are moving to Dubai soon." Good luck to you, my friend. My wife would never let me move there. I like Dubai. She doesn't like it. Thistle, here we are. I have a question. Do you know what happened to Nick Brown? I have an answer to that. Why are you asking that in this? Is that on our agenda today, Thistle? No. When we talk about other things, sexual matters, maybe it will, but it's not on my agenda today. So if you want to set up your own agenda, set up your own podcast. I'm not being too rude, but it's a bit kind of, don't do that. I don't like it. You should know that if you've been, well, you have been listening to me for ages. You know what I'm like. That's the agenda. Let's talk on about this agenda. I don't think I'm ever going to feel safe, says Josie Wiley. Isn't that awful? Isn't that awful that people feel like that in Britain? So that's it. That's the show. How long have I done? 51 minutes. Bloody hell. Great turnout for a Sunday afternoon again. Thank you very much. The best thing you can do to help me is tell all your friends, retweet or repost the video if it's on Facebook. Tell everybody to sign up to YouTube. Remember, it's free. That little subscribe button down there. See, down there. Just press it. Costs nothing. You don't even have to put your email address in. It captures your contact details. And whenever I make a video, you'll be the first to know. Simple as that. I don't have anything to do with it. YouTube do it. We've nearly got 4,000 subscribers. Somebody very nice to them today on Twitter said, "Why hasn't Jon Gaunt got hundreds of thousands?" I don't know. Because I've just started, I think, and it takes time. But I could do with them. I think if I'd started this when I was still on national radio, I'd have 200,000 subscribers, a million, I don't know. But at the moment, I got nearly 4,000. And I'm going to have a party when I hit 4,000. I think I'm 200 and something off it. So it's getting there. And I'm not, well, I am in a rush because then you'll be making more money. And I'm making no money at the moment. But it's not like all consuming. Do you understand what I mean? I just want to, I don't want to weaken what I'm doing just to chase the dollar. I've done too much of that in my life. Steve's just put £2 in. He says 51 minutes, John. It's 53 now. That must be worth a couple of quid. Thank you very much indeed. Craig says, "I think the best thing anyone could do is boycott Uber." Well, it's not just Uber, is it? It's all of these delivery companies. I agree with you. There should be a campaign. You don't need it. Why do you need a lukewarm pizza delivered by some twat on a bike with a balaclava on? You don't. You don't. Why don't they do joined up thinking? And you watch tomorrow. They'll start talking about extremism. Then they'll be into far-right extremism. Then they'll be talking about the Southport riots. And then they'll be vilifying the decent silent majority again. Us flag shaggers. I quite like being one of them. I don't really know what it means. But I'd rather be waving our flag than the flag of a foreign country run by a bunch of terrorists. Do you remember, well, I've told you this before, when was the last time Palestine had elections? It's something like 14 years ago. Why? Because it's being run by Hamas. I'm not saying Israel are all on the right. They're not. But this idea that the Israelis are the enemy, end of, it's all a bit simplistic, isn't it? And what about Zara Sultana? I'm delighted she set up her own political party with Jeremy Corbyn. Have you heard? They've bought a load of phone boxes so they can have annual conference in one of them. John, being a wicket in a cricket. Oh, we used to say that, didn't we, on Talk Sport? England lose the second test. See you tomorrow, mate. Yeah. India, the weather was with them and also the skill. Good luck to them. They deserved it. We might have got a draw if the weather had turned bad, but that's not the way you want to win or not lose, is it? It's not very British, English, is it? Right, I've had enough. I'm off. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope I've given you food for thought. Oh, I just wanted to go. Pip Tomlinson, he's just bunged in some money. Join late today. Buy yourself a nice beer. And he's whacked in £2.50. Thank you very much indeed, Pip, out in Barcelona. I know you were one of the people who defended me yesterday, said he knows it's not Spanish. I'm in Barcelona. We all know it's not Spanish. I like it, though. Someone said, it's just Carling with a bit more sugar in it. Well, who cares? The taste is quite nice. I couldn't drink it all night, and I couldn't drink it in the winter, and I wouldn't necessarily drink it in a pub. But sitting outside the little village pub, it was delightful. I really enjoyed it. But then I get called a flag shagger. What, for loving my country? I don't know about, they're talking about nationality tests, aren't they, for these new people coming in? I think we need to look at everybody who's already here, especially the Liberals. They obviously hate our country. Stelios, jocks away. Why don't we send them off somewhere where they might be happier? Huh? Then they wouldn't be bugging us, would they? And that 83-year-old granny, I don't give a shit about her. She can't have a banner up at the moment saying that. She's as bad as that rapper. Well, he's messed up, isn't he? He's had a bigger fall from grace than Gaunty. Something like that. All right, I'm off. I'll see. I've got to clean the house now because Rosie's coming back in the morning. And I'm going home. I'm coming home. I've done my time. Is that tire yet? Anyway, whatever. I'll see you tomorrow. Up at 6, I'll probably do a show unless there's complications. But otherwise, I like that line. The Feral Gamer 91 says he couldn't wrap his way into a Christmas party. That's a nice line. Thank you very much. Right, I'm off. If you've got kids, give them a kiss, give them a hug. Don't forget to tell them you love them, and I'll see you tomorrow. If not tomorrow, definitely on Tuesday. Remember the anniversary tomorrow, and remember the 52 people who died that day, and, of course, the 700 and odd who were severely injured, and, of course, all their relatives and family. But we weren't defeated, and we won't be defeated now. All the best. Fly your flag with pride. If you've got kids, give them a kiss, give them a hug. Don't forget to tell them you love them. See ya.